The Tinder Swindler, Part 4. The Tinder Swindler, Part 4. We continue with the analysis to explain the behaviours of Simon Leviev to understand through the lens of narcissism what's actually going on by identifying the various indicators explaining his responses. The narrative largely follows what is occurring within the programme that was filmed for Netflix, The Tinder Swindler. Following the involvement of the investigative journalist from Verger and Pernilla's uncovering of the fact that he is a fraudster, she then calls him with Verger filming her. She asks, "Can you just tell me the truth?" This is challenge fuel, because while she's giving him fuel as a consequence of the tone of her voice down the telephone, and that she's making inquiry of him, the fact that she is making an inquiry is a challenge to him. He responds with, "I've told you the truth," which in effect is a denial. He closes it down. She responds, "No, you haven't told me the truth." More challenge fuel. He responds, "I told you the entire truth." "I don't understand what the, denial again. Feigned misunderstanding. She responds with, Simon, I lost everything I have. Can you please tell me the truth for once? It's a little." Again, her request for the truth is challenge fuel. He requires control at all times with the interactions of all individuals around him. Her repeated questioning is continuing to threaten his sense of control. He then responds, and his tone shifts, where he says, "Pernilla, you have no idea. My enemies are trying to." He's haughty. He's triangulating and deflecting. He shows an absence of emotional empathy because he won't provide her with an answer. Pernilla interjects, Simon, listen to me. I know." Again, this is challenge fuel. He immediately interjects, "What do you know?" This is because her suggestion that she knows something that he might not, or that she knows something about him but he doesn't know what it is a threat to control. He then demands to know what she knows. And he becomes more agitated. She explains, "I know everything, Simon. I know you're doing this fraud thing. I know you've been jailed in Finland." He responds, "What the fuck is this bullshit?" It's at this juncture that we notice for the first time an emotive response. Hitherto, whenever he has addressed his victims, even when he's been saying that he loves them and misses them, it's always with a flat effect, that there's no emotion behind the words. Here, there is a genuine emotion. Irritation, annoyance, haughtiness, frustration, because of the repeated threats to control. His fury ignites as he barks, "What is this bullshit?" Pernilla responds, "I know about the other people that you have defrauded." Challenge fuel. He responds, "You double-cross me. I can tell you right now, you will pay for this for the rest of your life." Threat. Pernilla responds, "I am paying for the rest of my life. You took everything I have." Blame, which amounts to challenge fuel. Simon responds with, "This is your mistake. If you want to make some claims against me, give me the evidence that you have against me." He's agitated at this point. He's haughty and dismissive. Pernilla explains, "The Israeli police have confirmed you with your picture." This again is challenge fuel, suggesting the involvement of the authorities. He tries to shut this down. "Nobody has confirmed anything. That's not true." Denial. She explains, "I had a flight to Amsterdam. Who paid for it?" She's questioning him. Challenge fuel once again. He responds indignantly, I paid for it. Lie. No, you didn't, explains Pernilla. I have a transaction and it was paid for by another woman. Challenge fuel. She's suggesting that what he's saying is untrue. He responds, because of my enemies. I couldn't use my own. I have paid these people in cash. I did give them money. Lie. Pernilla, you can't keep doing this. Threat to control, because she's essentially telling him what he can and cannot do. He then responds, honey, what have you done this all for? There will be a price, and I promise it'll be bigger than me. Threat. Pernilla, what do you mean, the price? She's questioning him again. It amounts to challenge fuel. Simon, you double-cross me, you're going to pay for it. Threat. Pernilla then ends the call, which, of course, will have wounded him because she's the one that ended it. This exchange is an excellent demonstration of the ignition of fury and his repeated attempts to assert control over her directly. Notice that he doesn't close the phone call down. Notice that he doesn't shut it down and just ignore her. Why? It's because she's continuing to give him fuel, and his narcissism is gratefully accepting it. However, at the same time, there is a price that comes with the provision of this fuel. He's being repeatedly challenged, but it's not something that his narcissism doesn't feel that it can't deal with. Instead, it responds by denial, deflection, blame shifting, triangulation, and then use of threat when the denials aren't working. Again and again and again, his narcissism directs him to assert control directly over her. And he does so with the comments that he makes, which then moves on to the threats until such time as she then closes the conversation. The Vergès publication follows, and there is extensive media interest in the story. The Vergès journalist explains that they were then contacted by journalists all over the world. And it is at this juncture more information is provided about the behaviour of Simon, with various sound bites being provided to explain, for instance, that somebody met him on Tinder in 2015 and he went by the name of Mordechai Tapiro. Lie. Use of a hunting ground. A second person confirms that she had a relationship with him for 6 months and met family and friends. He used the name Simon Leviev. Again, lie. A man explains that his wife and he hired Simon to babysit their 5-year-old son when he was just 20 years old. Another person explains, he told me he was an heir to an Israeli airline and employed me as his PA. Lie. Another man explains that he was hired as a chauffeur for Simon and that he hired lots of cars but never paid the bill of $300,000. Fraud, asset appropriation, lie. Another person explains that he said that he was a Mossad agent, lie, that was working undercover as a pilot, lie, character trait acquisition, and she explains that she's still not over it 6 years later. Sounds like she needs a consultation with me. I'll move her on. Another man confirms that in 3 days, Simon had spent $42,000 on the Amex card, which amounts to asset appropriation, sense of entitlement, lack of accountability. As a consequence of all these victims coming forward, as a consequence of what the journalists had posted, more comes out of the woodwork to demonstrate the repeated fraudulent behaviours of the man that portrays himself as Simon Leviev. The story then shifts, and it moves to a Dutch lady called Eileen Charlotte, and you'll learn more about her responses and the way that she views things in a further part dedicated to her. But again, we're focusing on this from Simon's point of view. Having discovered that her boyfriend is in an article about this Tinder swindler, she then forwards it to Simon. This, of course, is a threat to control, because it's suggesting that he's a dishonest individual. And that does not fit with the view that he has of himself. He immediately responds to try and nullify that threat to control by calling her the direct assertion of control. But she doesn't answer. And that will have caused minor wounding to him. We learn from Eileen that she also met him on Tinder, use of a hunting ground, that he took her also to a 5-star hotel on the first date, as he did with Cecilia. Grandiosity, bribery. She explains how he was very thoughtful, false compassion, that he bought gifts for her, and we see numerous pictures of those gifts, bribery. She explains that he started talking about settling down together and starting a family, future faking. She explains that as she read through the Vergere article, various videos came up, and that she saw one of the videos with Simon saying to Cecilia, "I love you, I miss you, I can't wait to see you." Aileen realises that this is very similar to a video that he sent to her. Similar modus operandi, objectification. He uses the path of least resistance as his narcissism seeks on an economy setting to gain the largest return for the minimum of investment, and so he uses this similar modus operandi, both in terms of the overall operation, but also sections of it. For instance, the "I love you, I miss you" videos. This also demonstrates his objectification of his victims. In the unconscious, it would be that he doesn't see them as anything other than objects, that he sees them as appliances that are there to be picked up and put down. It might be that he also views that consciously. We'll have to see where that leads to with regard to the determination for his school and cadre in a later part. It's uncovered that he was using the same words to Cecilia as he did with Aileen. Objectification, similar modus operandi. She works out that he was seeing Cecilia in Amsterdam at the same time that he was dating and meant to be seeing Aileen. Infidelity, intimate partner secondary source shelving. Aileen learns that he was looking at properties in London to live there with Cecilia, and that he was doing the same with her with regard to living together in Amsterdam. Future faking, similar modus operandi, objectification. We learn that he said that he was going on a business trip to Oslo. That's a lie, but he was actually going to see Cecilia. He sends a message to Aileen saying, "Tired as fuck." Deflection. Later, she explains that Simon claimed that a business meeting in Munich was taking place, lie, because he was actually seeing Pernilla at that point. Shift to a different secondary source. She also explains that Simon had used the ambulance pictures and footage that had also been sent to Cecilia and also to Pernilla. Similar modus operandi, objectification, triangulation, bringing up the past, pity play. Aileen confides in Simon that she has been beaten up by 2 men in the past, and he then says that she is being followed. Use of vulnerability against the victim. Aileen explains that she had lent him money. Fraud, typical modus operandi, sense of entitlement, asset appropriation. She explained that it started off small, but ultimately reached $140,000. When Aileen is introduced, we don't get the detailed seduction stage as was seen with Cecilia and to an extent with Pernilla. As I mentioned earlier, I suspect that the filmmakers didn't want to duplicate that, believing that the audience has got the message, and they wanted to show a different part of the dynamic with Aileen, as you'll see in a further part. So we get a potted history, if you will. Undoubtedly, he will have followed a very similar route, although she believed that she was his girlfriend, his treatment of her is not that of an intimate partner primary source, but rather he's backwards and forwards dealing with other intimate partner secondary sources. We know from early material that he moves around a lot. He's barely in one place for more than a couple of days, so it's not like that he was living with Aileen, going through the rudimentaries of domestic life on a daily basis. But he would fly in, maybe spend a day or two with her, and then go somewhere else, perhaps go for a long weekend together, and then go somewhere else. Backwards and forwards, moving between a host of different intimate partner secondary sources and, in some instances, non-intimate secondary sources. Aileen learns all of that above information through Vergere while she's flying from Prague to Amsterdam. And as soon as she lands in Amsterdam and turns her phone back on, Simon calls her, assertion of control, hoovering, and he leaves a message. I don't know where this shit came from. Denial. The article was fake. Lie. Blame shifting. Cecile and Pernilla would have been paid by his enemies, apparently. Lie, paranoia, blame-shifting. Paid by the enemies to create the article. Following this, he then messages Aileen, hoovering her. I'm sorry. False contrition. I love you. Flattery. Please, I need your help. Looking to guilt her into assisting him, and pity play. My face is all over the news, and I cannot do anything. Pity play. At this point, Aileen sees an opportunity to manipulate Simon, and so she decides that she'll play along. He hoovers, asking for money, suggesting that she pawns her car and that she sells her house. Hoover, sense of entitlement, lack of emotional empathy for the effect that it would have on her of disposing of these assets. Having learned all of this, Aileen has decided to turn the tables on him. And at this juncture, she of course isn't with him. But she decides that she will go and meet him as a consequence of his pleas for help. And we will learn more about how that pans out and what she does and what all of that means in part 5.